Wife!
Do you know where we're at and how the hell we got here?
Well, yesterday we read Daniel chapter 6.
We sure as fuck did.
And in that chapter, let's see, Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, some guy that was leading the Babylonian people after he conquered...
Darius the Mede.
The Mede, yeah, he conquered those, well, they were Babylonians, they're still Babylonians, and they were... something else. Chaldeans, I guess. Yeah, so he conquered them.
Sure.
And then he put into power some people, and Daniel was one of the top 3. And like all the people under him, and maybe beside him, were jealous because this king really preferred Daniel over everybody else, and he was going to like take charge of everything.
Well, and part of the problem too was that they were like, why the fuck is this guy over here being put in charge of shit, and he's a Jew and we're not? That's not right. And he was a captive brought up here. He's not even fucking from here.
Right. So the people that were jealous that he was in charge, they couldn't find anything wrong with Daniel, so they came up with a scheme, and they were like, we're gonna get this guy in trouble. So they played on the king's ego and said, hey, king, you should do a decree. And apparently the decrees of the Medes were like famous for being non-breakable, apparently. So they're like, you should make a decree that nobody for the next 30 days can worship anybody but you. And so that happened because ego and pride and all that wonderful shit. And then they were like, hey, this guy that you like, he's worshiping his God and not you.
Right.
And the king was like, fuck.
Darius was like, dope.
Because he liked him.
I've been got.
Yeah. But also, he couldn't break his decree.
Yeah, because they paint themselves in corners with their stupid rules.
Yeah. So he was kind of forced by these people to go through with this punishment, which was throwing Daniel into a lion's den.
Because of course.
Right, because that's what you do, I guess. So anyway, apparently Daniel survived, and that was miraculous, and then God's wonderful and awesome because... that's what this whole fucking book so far has been about.
Right.
They're like, hey, look how awesome our fucking God is with this fictional character that's doing all these amazing things. Amazing. It's crazy how he's doing these things.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. And anyway, he survived. And then the king was obviously pissed at the people that tricked him into doing this.
But happy that Daniel survived.
So as you do as king... you take the people that did this thing to you and you kill them, their families, their kids, their wives, and you throw them all into the lion's den. That's how you handle problems.
Yeah.
Is you kill all the people.
Yes.
That's what God does.
That's what I always do. Don't you have a lion's den in your backyard that you throw people in?
No. I think we have a rabbit's den.
We do, and we have
maybe a groundhog den.
We have a hole under the fence between our yard and our neighbor's yard. Yeah,
that's a big ass groundhog that lives in our backyard.
It's a huge hole. Have you seen it lately?
I have not.
I was mowing yesterday. That fucking hole is huge, and no wonder because that groundhog is fat.
He is.
Like I hate to fat shame an animal, but he's eating well.
He's a big boy. He's eating well. Yeah. And we kind of like him. He's friendly. He's a friendly groundhog,
I mean, he ain't hurting me.
It's not our yard. We rent. Yeah. So whatever.
There's also a wild bunny back there.
There is a baby one.
Yeah, last year was a wild bunny, and this year is a little wild bunny. When you raise it had babies. I'm so happy about it too.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Daniel chapter 6.
Sure as fuck was.
And all about our backyard. And then that means today we're getting into
Daniel chapter 7.
All right. You ready to do this?
I am.
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. Okay, we are hopping into Daniel chapter 7.
Or Daniel chapter 7.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
As I have been doing at the beginning of every chapter in Daniel, let me remind you that this book can be divided into 2 parts.
It's extra important today.
It is because the first set, the first part was a set of 6 court tales, and we are done with those. And those were mostly written in Aramaic.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now we are starting the 4 apocalyptic visions, which encompass chapters 7 through 12.
Okay.
And those were written in Hebrew. So,
got it. And I'm not sure whether to be excited, scared, or whatever. Like it's just going to be different now. We're changing things up.
Changing things up. It's interesting because okay, well, let me just read this note. Although the visions collected in this section of the book are in approximate chronological order, there is no obvious connection leading one on to the next. Each vision has a separate and distinct message.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
And before I start reading the chapter, I want to give a slight intro too. Okay?
Yeah.
Daniel, having in the previous chapters related certain events about himself and his fellow captives, and having given proof of his being enabled by God to interpret the dreams of others, proceeds now to detail his own visions.
Got it.
And this is returning us to a period prior to the last chapter.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Remember when I read the last chapter and I was like, this one's out of place?
Yes.
So that's just a reminder that we're going back a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you said that one should have been between, like, either at the end of 7 or 8 or something like that.
It should be after 8, I believe.
After 8. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I could have that wrong, but we'll
whatever.
see.
Yeah. Right.
Does it really matter?
No.
All right. So in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon.
Yeah.
So
we're back before they got conquered, right?
No. What? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Back before Babylon got conquered.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, when you said
before the Medes got conquered. I apologize.
Before the Medes got there. The Medes did the conquering.
That's what I meant. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day.
It has. So this is before Babylon and the Chaldeans got conquered by the Mede Persian people.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Got it. All right. So in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he was lying in bed. He wrote down the substance of his dream, because of course he did.
Right.
Daniel said, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the 4 winds of heaven, churning up the great sea. 4 great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea.
Okay.
The first was like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle." That sounds like a sphinx kind of thing happening, right?
It does, yeah.
"I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it.
Huh, okay.
And there before me was a second beast,
okay,
which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, 'Get up and eat your fill of flesh.'"
Okay.
I'm loving these. What? Yeah. "After that, I looked, and there before me was another beast." So this is the third one.
Sure, yeah.
"One that looked like a leopard."
A leopard, okay.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Right, yeah.
I mean, almost.
Right,
kind of.
But it's interesting that the first one was a combination of multiple creatures, and now we're just like single creatures.
Just a bear.
Right.
You're just a bear.
It's weird.
You're just a
little
leopard.
bit weird.
Yeah. "And on the leopard's back, it had 4 wings like those of a bird."
Never mind.
Yeah, you didn't know.
It was just the bear that was by itself.
The bear is boring. Boring old bear.
Fucking bears.
Silly old bear. "This beast had 4 heads."
I wonder if they have... Did they do commercials about wiping their ass back then, you think?
The Charmin bear?
Yeah, were they in like talks with Charmin back then?
No.
To get in good? No.
No.
I gotta say though, the easy tear stuff that they advertise on Charmin.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I've tried it we don't have it here, but we know somebody that does, and I tried it, and both times I ripped a piece.
And it
did not rip along that easy tear edge.
So the easy tear was not easily tearable.
I'm just saying, we are not sponsored by Charmin, and I'm calling bullshit on their fucking marketing. That's all. That's all. I just had to throw that out there since we're talking about bears a little bit.
All right. Well, you were very excited to tell me about that bear.
I was.
And if it shits in the wood, and if the toilet paper rips easily. So I'm going to go back because I think you missed a part.
I kind of got off track there.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So he sees a leopard, and it has 4 wings.
Yes.
This beast had 4 heads.
Whoa.
That's the part you missed.
Got it.
I said that, and then you were like, "But the toilet paper, though."
I mean, He says it's a leopard, but not many leopards have wings and or
Not many.
yeah, and or four heads. You
Right.
know, this seems
Either
like it's
or,
not
and this
a
one
leopard.
has both.
Did it just have spots, and that's what gave it away? Is that
Right?
the distinguishing mark of the leopard? Or
What makes you think it's a leopard?
right?
So it has,
I think my answer to seeing that would be like, what in the everlasting fuck is that?
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Some kind of wildcat thing
Right,
with wings.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule.
Oh,
I mean, yeah,
okay.
with 4 heads, I would think so, right? After that, in my vision at night, I looked. And again, I keep looking.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to stop looking,
Maybe.
is what I think.
Yeah.
And there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful.
Okay.
It had large iron teeth.
Iron teeth. Wow.
Right?
Okay.
It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left.
Huh.
It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns.
Whoa.
What? While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one,
What?
which came up among them.
In the same beast that had the iron feet or whatever the
Iron
fuck they were.
teeth.
Iron teeth. I'm sorry.
Iron teeth,
Yes.
10 horns, and now a little one.
Okay.
A little horn
Yeah.
among the 10
Okay.
horns. Okay.
Well, I don't see the significance here, but okay.
So it came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. So
okay.
this little horn came up and was like, boom, and knocked the 3 of the big ones out. Okay?
Still not understanding what's going on here.
This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully.
A horn that had eyes and a mouth.
Yeah.
The little horn that
horn.
usurped the other 3 horns to
Yeah,
take their place.
I had to go back and reread that it was the horn that had eyes and a mouth, because I was like, no, it's the leopard. No, you're right, it's the horn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The horn has eyes and a mouth.
Iron teeth and then horns, and one of the horns grew out of the other horns and had eyes and something. Then teeth.
Mouth. And he spoke boastfully.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm just making sure I'm getting all this.
Right. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. Ancient of Days is
This
capital.
is the iron teethed beast with the horns and the mouth and the horns and the eyeballs. Or
No, this is Daniel saying as I looked, because he's looking at all this.
Right. But that ancient whatever beast thing, is that referring to the one that they were just talking about? The one with the iron teeth? Or
What? What are you asking me?
reread what you just read.
I read, as I looked, and then quote, thrones were set in a place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat.
Okay, who is the Ancient of Days?
Well, it's capital letters, so I'm going to assume it's God.
Okay.
Right? Am I
All right.
wrong?
Well, I thought maybe it was one of the beasts. I thought we had just got done talking about the one with the iron teeth, so I thought maybe that's what that was.
I think it's God, because look, the next sentence says, his clothing was as white as snow.
Oh.
The hair of his head was white like wool.
Okay.
His throne, was
Yeah.
flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. Oh, there go the
got
wheels.
Yeah.
Go Ezekiel, man.
Yeah.
The wheels were all ablaze.
Yeah.
A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him.
Okay.
Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him.
That's a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The court was seated, and the books were opened.
What?
There's books? I didn't know there were books.
What book do they have open?
Many of them.
Okay.
Plural. S at the end.
Got
Books.
it. Yeah.
And they were opened.
Right.
Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking.
Okay, so I'm confused. Like,
Okay.
I think this is going to require a lot of like Q&A stuff here, because why the fuck is the horn speaking now that we just got done talking about the Ancient Days Ancient of Days thing that's, is decked out in white and has white hair or something, and
he's in a
and
library
wheels
or
and
something?
shit. And okay, I'm really kind of lost right
There's
now. I'm
just
just
a
gonna be
lot-
honest, because
There's a lot going on.
what's happening here?
Yeah. And
Okay.
what happened to the first 3 beasts anyway?
Yeah, like we've moved on apparently.
The bear was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't compete with this. I kept looking until the beast, the fourth one,
Yeah.
the scary
The iron
dude,
teeth one with,
the leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads and
with the cyst
horns.
horn that's growing teeth and eyeballs or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire.
I'm assuming the Ancient of Days killed it?
I don't know.
How did it get slain?
I don't know, but I've got a parentheses voice.
Sure.
The other beasts had been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time.
Oh, okay. So this Ancient
authority.
of Days apparently usurped the authority from all these others, and that scary ass beast had to be dealt with immediately because it was scary, right? Yeah. The other 3,
I was scared.
One of them was just a fucking bear, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean,
so they were allowed to live because they weren't quite as scary, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven.
Okay.
This is where the Christians get their Jesus talk of the
sure.
Old Testament.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed.
I see. Okay. So this is Christians obviously read this bit.
Yeah, they did, and they still do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I meant before they wrote, the Christian bit.
Oh, yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I, Daniel, was troubled in spirit, and the visions that passed through my mind disturbed me. I approached one of those standing there and asked him the meaning of all this. So he told me and gave me the interpretation of these things.
One of those standing there. Is this one of the people in attendance?
One of the thousands.
Tens of thousands times tens of thousands?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So here's what this guy says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 great beasts are 4 kings that will rise from the earth.
Okay.
I wonder which one is the boring bear. But the holy people of the Most High, capital M, capital H, will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying with its iron teeth and bronze claws. That wasn't
that's new.
Yeah. I guess it has some bronze claws.
Right.
Editor much? The beast that crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head.
I really want to know about all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck is happening?
Right? Like, oh, you got high with Ezekiel.
Right?
I see.
Yeah.
So I
feel like these prophets had way too much free time and way too many drugs.
Yeah, because their dreams were sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and about that other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell. The horn that looked more imposing than the others and that had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully.
Yeah, right. I'm curious. Sure.
As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them, as horns do.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing that happens. Sure.
Until the capital Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people of the Most High, capital.
Okay.
And the time came when they possessed the kingdom. He gave me this explanation, the dude.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even with this.
Right?
Okay.
I'm definitely going to need this explanation. I hope it actually does something.
Sure. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it.
Oh, okay.
I think I was talking to my dad about Bible things, and he was like, Daniel, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I'm reading that book right now.
Yeah.
And so then he was like, yeah, we're in the end days. It's happening. And Russia is the big one that's coming.
Oh, wait. So, okay, that confuses the fuck out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the right wing so friendly about Russia when if apparently the Christian right thinks that Russia is that fourth beast.
They're so excited because as soon as all this shit happens, they get tribulated right up to heaven or
and
whatever.
This is why Christians should not be in charge of decision making.
Right, because they're like, yes, it's the end days. And we're like, that's not...
we don't want that, guys.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
And they're like, we're going to heaven. And we're like, I hope that for you.
Right.
You're wrong, but I hope that for you.
Good luck with that.
I don't want your cat.
No.
Just kidding. He's sweet, but he's old.
Right.
And our cat
would not get along.
No, you know what? That's not necessarily true. When we stayed with them for a little bit,
they were the two that got along best.
They were the two that got along best. Yeah. I think they'd be okay because mostly they were like, meh.
I'll leave you alone. You leave me alone.
That's your corner. This is my corner.
Right.
Yeah, they'd be okay.
All right.
All right. If my parents get tribulated up to heaven or wherever, we will take their cat.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom.
Okay.
Kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will rise. So this is the little horn. Different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings.
Okay.
He will speak against the Most High, capital letters.
Yeah.
And oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times and a half a time. What?
This is so weird.
Delivered into his hands for a time, times, and half a time.
Sure.
Times, and half a time.
Right. I am definitely
confused, and very lost.
No, I think this is going to require a little bit of research for sure.
I'm so lost. Mm-hmm. But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever.
Okay.
Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him.
Oh, good.
There's your Jesus-y whatever, right?
Yeah, sure.
This is the end of the matter. I, Daniel, was deeply troubled by my thoughts, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself. The end.
Oh, you didn't keep it to yourself. You wrote it down, apparently.
You wrote it in your journal, and then you got your journal published, bitch.
Right.
Like, what?
Now, I mean, that's assuming that Daniel is real and whatever. Yeah. But yeah, if you're sitting here we're sitting here reading the fucking story, so you obviously didn't keep it to yourself.
Right. Because
moreover, that dream is kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it means. It doesn't make...
Look, if I had this kind of dream, which, I mean, I've had some crazy dreams,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
If I had this kind of dream, I would roll over and go back to sleep to try to dream a different dream to get that shit out my head.
Right.
Like, I clearly did not get enough sleep. I need more sleep. And that cannot be the last dream that I had.
I certainly wouldn't, like, the attribution of meaning to these figures that they're in this story is somewhat absurd, in my opinion. Like, I get that these are supposed to represent, kingdoms and kings and this people, the people that follow the Almighty on high, whatever the fuck is going on there, and then this other person that came in that's going to rule forever. I get that there's all this symbolism here, but you could attribute this to, like, I mean.
It could have been 4 donuts.
Right.
4 donuts. Okay. And one of them was glazed. Like, that would make as much sense, right?
I mean, look, I have this sneaking suspicion that when we go research this, right, we're going to find all this information about Jesus and this coming kingdom and how everything's going to be perfect in God's eye. And they've related each one of these things to a specific king or kingdom or whatever, and that's how this is all going to break down, right? But just reading through this vision, I'm like, dude, that's a fucked up dream.
You need therapy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Affectionately.
Maybe, or just maybe better sleep. Like, you're obviously not sleeping well. Something's going wrong here.
What is that mattress that on the Sattva mattress?
Right.
That's what I keep hearing advertised on, like, every podcast ever.
Right. Yeah.
Not sponsored, not sponsored, not sponsored. All right, I have a couple notes. Ready?
Uh-huh.
The 4 kingdoms represented here are the same 4 kingdoms illustrated in chapter 2.
Okay.
Okay, and chapter 2 was which one was chapter 2?
That
the
was
one where
the
they were
dream
going to
interpretation.
eat.
No.
Oh, no?
The chapter 2 was the one where the king had the dream and he was going to chop everybody into pieces.
That's right.
And then Daniel was like, whoa, wait, give me a night to think on it. And then
they prayed and were like,
yeah.
Can you tell me though?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the same 4 kingdoms, which is the Chaldeans, the Medo-Persians, the Macedonian or Grecian.
Okay.
Both combo, whatever.
Yeah.
And the Romans. But there is a difference in emphasis. Whereas the vision given to King Nebuchadnezzar dealt in general with the historical significance of the events symbolized.
Yeah.
The vision given to Daniel here in this chapter dealt more with how these events would affect God's people.
Okay.
That didn't clear much up for me, but I'm just putting it out there.
Right.
So
I guess historically this is how this translates out, right? But to me it just sounded like a crazy dream.
Yeah.
But okay. Sure. That's what it means.
Another thing that I picked up in my notes was that the people, like when Daniel was like, yo, what is all this? And then the one of the thousands or whatever turned to him and started explaining shit.
Yeah.
That was one of God's heavenly servants. I don't know how you get that. I didn't get that.
Right.
It was just one of the thousands.
Sure.
And what?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. But anyway.
I don't understand the need to take, like, there's these ideas that of things to come and prophecies to happen and all these things, right? Why do they need to put these ideas into the form of crazy ass imagery? Right? Like,
just
what is why do they need to do that?
Why do you have to be a magic 8-ball? Just talk. Just use your goddamn words.
I honestly believe that it's done so that if they're wrong, it's not wrong, right? They can. It's like telling someone how they're reading someone's palm, right? You just do a very general idea, and you can't be that wrong, right? People will then attribute meaning to things that you say, regardless of what actually happened.
Do you know somebody whose name starts with an S?
Right.
I mean, who doesn't?
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't get this chapter, and I did take notes. I did try to, be prepared for it, but my notes are not enough because that's all the notes that I really have.
Yeah.
To, talk about what happened here.
One thing I am curious about when we do a Q&A or maybe in the next chapter is we were discussing the last time about how this was written 200, like around the 200 BCE timeframe. But were both these versions, like the 1 through 6 and the 7 through whatever, were they both written in that same time frame, or are there different ideas as to when each section was written? I'm just curious.
I'd have to look into that more because the answer that I was given, not having asked that question, was that they were all
around the same time frame.
Yeah,
but they're obviously different languages that they spawned from. So it's I suppose it's still possible. Maybe some of these stories were collected and some of them were written. Yeah, right. So maybe it was all put together at the same time.
The first 6 were the Aramaic ones that had been around forever or whatever. So I would assume that those were the ones that were collected.
Got it.
From,
and
Aramaic
edited somewhat
sources.
because there's been
obviously, because they put the name Daniel in and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I would assume that the visions and, the 7 through 12.
This is the newly creative stuff that they came up with. Yeah. Which also kind of makes some sense because this vision right here that we're reading or read, it sounds very Ezekiel-ish as we were kind of leaning that direction. Yeah. And what we know of those times is that these latter prophets, right, they were becoming more and more prominent in this religion that is Judaism, right? And I don't know that they overlapped, but they might have the message that they were studying, whatever. Yeah. Like the little cult thing that they were growing might have overlapped both of them, even if
Ezekiel and Daniel did not necessarily overlap.
Well, and if these people that were writing this in the 200 BCE timeframe were studying Ezekiel and whatnot, it would make sense that some of the stylings and the ideas from those books would make it into this new book that they're writing. So it can make some sense that way, I guess.
Sure.
But that was a crazy ass dream.
Yeah. Not a fan.
I mean, it's interesting. I like the imagery of the descriptions of the creatures, and it gives you a lot to like visualize.
Sure.
But it's not an easy idea to follow.
Yeah.
Because there's not really a coherent message.
There's too much. There's too much happening.
Right.
Like, okay, there's this thing in fiction where you can't have too many magical things happen because it's asking the audience to believe too much.
Right.
So you can have, like, I don't know, you can have aliens, but you can't also have God. And that's
Right.
why the movie Signs did not do really well.
Got it.
So
Okay. Right.
it's asking too many different opposing magical ideas.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that I feel like there was about 10 different things happening here.
It was all over the fucking place, for sure. I don't really think we have much else to say except for that we probably need to touch on this episode when we go back on our Q&A. So
yeah.
That was Daniel chapter 7.
Sure as fuck was.
Which means that tomorrow we'll be back with
Daniel chapter 8.
And I think we're also going to try to get out our second episode for the
Patreon.
All right, and we'll see you guys then.
Bye.